Imagine this. You've gone through most of your life believing you're just average looking, maybe even below the mark. You look in the mirror and don't see what others find impressive. You compare yourself to guys who seem to attract women effortlessly, and because no one's throwing themselves at you, you assume you don't have it. But that assumption is dead wrong. Because here's the truth. Many of the most attractive men are completely unaware of how magnetic they truly are. Most men don't realize they've been misreading the game the entire time. Women don't express attraction the way men expect. We look for overt signs, but women, they work in subtleties. They signal attraction through behavior, energy, proximity, and micro cues that go right over the heads of 90% of guys. That means you could be walking around thinking you're invisible, while women are secretly drawn to your presence. You've been evaluating yourself by movie standards, where attraction is loud, direct, and dramatic. You've been tricked into thinking that unless women are approaching you, complimenting you, or openly flirting, you must be unattractive. But in the real world, attraction is often a whisper, not a shout, and it's time you learn to hear it. Here's what most men miss. The more attractive a man actually is, the more subtle the signals he receives. That's because high-value women often won't make bold moves. They preserve their pride. They wait for you to notice the hints. And when you don't, they move on, leaving you clueless about what just happened. What you think is disinterest is often a calculated move, a woman looking your way and then looking away quickly. That's not her being uninterested, it's her avoiding the embarrassment of being caught staring. If you catch her doing it multiple times, that's not a coincidence, that's low-key attraction. Women position themselves near men they're attracted to, without making it obvious. They linger in your space. They find reasons to be around you. They walk past you repeatedly. They join group conversations you're in. They orbit you socially, hoping you'll notice. Even when they don't speak to you, they're communicating. If a woman frequently ends up in your peripheral vision, or places herself in your line of sight without any real reason, that's not random. That's interest. They're watching you while pretending they aren't, and it gets even deeper. Attractive men unconsciously influence the dynamics of a room. Conversations pause when they speak. People lean in. Group attention shifts toward them. This isn't arrogance. It's unconscious dominance. It's a sign you have more social gravity than you realize. Other men pick up on this too, even if you don't. Some will start copying you, your style, your tone, your mannerisms, because they subconsciously recognize your influence. Others will become competitive or dismissive, not because you've done anything wrong, but because they feel threatened. And what does that tell you? You're a force. Ever had a woman give you a compliment that felt different? Not about your looks directly, but something like, "You have a vibe," or "There's something about you." That's her trying to express interest she can't quite explain. Because real attraction isn't always logical, it's energetic, instinctual, and hard to articulate. People might assume you have options, without you ever saying a word about your dating life. That assumption stems from how you carry yourself. Confidence without bragging, presence without trying too hard. It's a vibe that screams high value and others notice. Women may even act territorial around you without any clear reason. They'll try to dominate your attention at events, cut in when you're speaking to others, or display subtle jealousy. These are emotional reactions to a man who holds value, someone they don't want to share.
Over time, you might find that your presence alone commands attention. People remember your conversations. They follow your movements in social settings. They mirror your posture or speech patterns without realizing it. That's attraction working on a deep, unconscious level.
As you age and gain experience, this effect often amplifies. Emotional intelligence, financial stability, and personal growth become magnets. You evolve into someone who carries wisdom, calm confidence, and leadership. These traits become more desirable than just looks, and unlike physical beauty, they age like fine wine. Attractive men often suffer from what psychologists call baseline adjustment. You get so used to being treated a certain way, respected, listened to, desired, that it becomes your norm. You stop recognizing it as exceptional. and start thinking it's just how life is. Meanwhile, others are seeing you as elite. But here's the game changer. Once you start noticing these subtle attraction signals, your self-perception starts to shift. You walk differently. You speak with more certainty. You stop over-chasing. And ironically, that confidence makes you even more desirable. This isn't about ego. It's about accuracy. When you stop measuring yourself against unrealistic external standards and start recognizing how the world reacts to you, you finally start to own your true value. And that unlocks a completely new level of presence. The moment you begin seeing the patterns, women positioning themselves near you, others deferring to your opinions, guys trying to outshine you, you can start playing the game with intention. You no longer second-guess yourself. You lead. The confidence you build from this awareness doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from clarity. You see yourself the way others do. You stop underestimating and start living up to your potential. That's real power. That's real presence. So take note of how people respond to you. Observe who lingers, who listens, who lights up when you speak. Track it, pattern it, own it. Because chances are, you've been attractive this whole time. You just didn't know how to see it. And once you do, everything changes. Your interactions, your relationships, your standards. You stop settling for crumbs because you realize you're the full-course meal. You stop chasing validation and start attracting genuine connection. The truth is, you've been powerful all along. You just didn't know the language of attraction. But now, you're fluent. And with that fluency comes choice, control, confidence. From here on out, you're playing the game with your eyes wide open, and the world won't be ready for what you're about to become. Once you begin decoding these signals, your interactions with women become effortless. You won't question if she's interested. You'll know. You'll be able to spot the cues, her body language, the subtle mirroring, the shifts in energy when you enter a room. It all becomes obvious once you know what to look for. That awareness becomes your superpower. It allows you to relax into who you are rather than chase external validation. You start building deeper, more authentic connections because you no longer need approval. You're choosing from a place of clarity. It's no longer about trying to be attractive. It's about recognizing that you already are and operating from that truth. The way you walk into a room changes. The way you carry yourself shifts. You radiate assurance without saying a word. You'll notice how women start to open up around you more easily. They become more playful, more curious. They ask deeper questions. Why? Because your presence makes them feel safe and challenged at the same time. You create an environment where they want to engage, explore, and connect. That's rare. That's powerful. That's what happens when you stop playing small and start embracing who you really are. And it's not just women who respond to this. Everyone does. Your friends will start asking for your opinion more often. People will begin introducing you as someone important. Your name will carry weight in conversations where it previously didn't. You become a man whose presence shifts energy. Not by force, not by ego, but by self-awareness, confidence, and grounded power. That's the most magnetic form of attractiveness there is. As this energy becomes more natural for you, your standards rise. You stop giving your time and energy to people who drain you. You start choosing relationships, friendships, and environments that reflect your new reality. You realize that the way people treat you is often a mirror of how you see yourself. Once you elevate that internal image, the external world follows. The respect increases, the admiration flows, opportunities multiply.
And the best part? You don't have to try so hard anymore. You've stepped into alignment. You're no longer chasing, you're attracting. No longer seeking validation, you're creating value.
When you embody this mindset, you become the man others want to be and women want to be around. Not because you're pretending, but because you've peeled back the layers and discovered what was always there. That's the real flex, unshakable self-awareness, not needing to prove. Just being. That's when people stop and take notice, even if they can't articulate why. And it becomes contagious. The more you embody it, the more you inspire others to step into their own power. You become a lighthouse, not a spotlight, radiating instead of chasing. Women pick up on that frequency instantly. They can sense when a man is self-possessed, grounded, and intentional. That's the kind of man they crave. That's the energy that draws them in without a single pickup line. You stop waiting for permission to be desired. You start owning it, fully. And in doing so, you give others permission to show up as their authentic selves, too. This journey of recognizing your true attractiveness isn't just about dating. It's about power. It's about influence. It's about walking into every room knowing you belong. You move differently, speak with intention, act with conviction, because now you're no longer seeking to fit in. You're creating your own gravity. And the world, it starts shifting around you. You're not reacting to it anymore. You're shaping it, one interaction at a time. Remember this, true attractiveness isn't just something you have, it's something you unlock. And once it's unlocked, you never move through life the same again. You become the storm and the calm, the edge and the anchor, the man who doesn't just take up space, but owns it. And in that ownership, you find everything you were chasing, respect, connection, love, fulfillment, was waiting on the other side of your own self-recognition.
So from this point forward, don't ask, am I attractive? Ask, how much of my power am I ready to step into today?
Because now you know, it's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you already are. And here's where the real transformation begins. When you start acting in alignment with your value, life begins to mirror that worth back to you. The jobs you land, the people you attract, the opportunities that present themselves, they all start leveling up. You'll notice fewer doors are closed. Not because luck is on your side, but because your energy now walks ahead of you, opening rooms your old self could never enter. Confidence is the key, and your presence is the invitation. You'll stop explaining yourself. You won't feel the need to justify your worth to people who don't get it. That silence, that pause before you speak, it carries weight. Because you're no longer just a man. You're a statement. Every move you make, every word you speak is backed by purpose. You've moved from insecurity to intentionality, from wondering if you're enough to knowing you are. And when you know you're enough, you stop negotiating with people who treat you like you're not. You no longer tolerate low-effort conversations, flaky behavior, or lukewarm energy. You attract people who match your frequency, women who respect themselves, friends who elevate you, mentors who challenge you. You stop surrounding yourself with people who settle and start building a tribe that grows. People start listening more intently when you talk. Your presence calms rooms. Your gaze carries clarity. You become the type of man who doesn't have to say much to be understood. This level of presence doesn't require noise. It thrives in stillness. It's not about being the loudest. It's about being the most grounded, the most self-aware. At this point, your value no longer comes from external things, it radiates from within. And that internal glow, it's irresistible. It attracts everything your former self chased. Your boundaries sharpen. You don't explain them, you enforce them. You don't chase closure, you create peace. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to like yourself. The women who once overlooked you start paying attention. The ones who never gave you a second glance now feel your presence like gravity. And it's not because you became someone new, it's because you finally started showing up as yourself. You're not looking for approval anymore. You're seeking alignment. You're choosing what resonates, not what's popular. You're prioritizing what's right over what's easy. In love, this shows up as standards. You don't beg for affection. You don't perform for love. You give it freely, but only to those who reciprocate. Because love without respect isn't love at all.
In work, this shows up as ambition. You're not afraid to take risks, to build, to lead. You step up, not to prove yourself, but to grow yourself. You stop asking for permission and start creating opportunity.
In your friendships, this shows up as loyalty.
You invest in those who invest in you. You stop watering dead plants. You stop entertaining empty bonds. You walk away from what no longer reflects your future.
This new version of you isn't louder. He's quieter, but more powerful. He doesn't need to prove. He doesn't need to posture. He knows who he is. And that self-knowledge? That's the sharpest weapon in a world full of confusion. When others zig, you zag, because you're not here to follow. You're here to lead.
Suddenly, life feels easier. Not because challenges disappear, but because you've become stronger. You don't fear difficulty. You embrace it. Because now you know it's just part of the refinement process.
Your mind becomes your ally, not your enemy. The doubt that once controlled you fades. You've replaced it with data, with awareness, with truth. You begin moving with patience. You no longer rush to outcomes. You enjoy the process because you trust that what's meant for you is already on its way. You just need to stay aligned long enough to receive it. You learn to rest, not quit. You learn to reflect, not regret. You understand that every setback sharpened you, every failure sculpted you, every rejection redirected you. You start giving back, not to impress, but to impact. You mentor younger men. You uplift those around you. You become the example you never had. You realize that legacy isn't built by chasing fame. It's built by living truthfully, by becoming so solid in who you are that others find strength in your presence. Your words become medicine. Your silence becomes comfort. Your life becomes proof that a man can transform without losing himself. You stop fearing solitude. In fact, you cherish it. Because it's in solitude that your power refines, your mind clears, your spirit recharges, and when you return to the world, you return as a storm. A calm storm. The kind that doesn't need to announce its arrival because its impact is undeniable. So let this version of you rise. Let the man within you lead. The man who no longer needs the world's permission to feel worthy. The man who knows he already is. Because once you understand your power, the game isn't about chasing anymore. It's about choosing. And brother, it's time to choose yourself. Your new chapter begins not when someone else validates you, but when you finally validate yourself. When you step out of the shadows and realize you were never average. You were just waiting to be seen. Starting with you.